Thank you very much. And my first question has already come in there, and we've popped an answer in. So this is great. So I'm good to go, William? Will I just go?
Yep, just get straight to it.
Awesome. Okay. Hi, everybody. Delighted to be speaking here for 10 minutes about something that I think is a bit cool. Do you know, sometimes you feel sorry for Visio, all right? It's kind of like the cousin of the Office family, not even really fully part of the Office family. Like there's Word documenting up everything in the world, Excel running half the businesses around the world, pretending to be a database. I mean, even PowerPoint, it's sitting here in front of you. And then there's Visio, all right? Visio's there just kind of sitting there. Someone creates a diagram, they put it somewhere, they embed it into a document, and that's it. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how you can bring a Visio diagram to life by putting it into Power BI. Quick few details about me there. There's my contact details. I'm going to completely skip over the rest because we got 10 minutes to go, and that's the last slide we're going to be looking at. So here's a Visio diagram. Isn't it wonderful? All blue and square, all right, and sitting inside in SharePoint, and that's it, all right? We just created a Visio diagram. It may be a very important Visio diagram. I mean, in this case, it's about my lead to opportunity pipeline, okay, which, is an important thing. How do leads come into my businesses? Oh, we go to conferences and we run online campaigns and we do search, and this results to a web sign up, and we validate our leads, and then we create a lead in CRM, and we send proposals, and we do follow-up call contacts, and we see who people responded, and that leads on to an opportunity. All very important stuff. If you've ever worked inside a CRM project, this stuff is important. But there it is. They create this diagram just to explain it and nothing more. So let's go back to how we would create that diagram. So I'm inside in here in Visio. And if I look at any of these diagrams, if you don't see it at the start, let's close that. If we do a right click on a property, you've got data, okay? And I got shape data. And this is to do with any object inside in Visio, okay? If I pop anything on here, pop on a decision matrix in there, you can see there's this data box. Okay, shape data is available in Visio. Okay. And one of the things that isn't immediately available in shape data is an ID column. Okay, so again, let's look how would I get that ID column in there. Let's pop on a Visio. Over here, go right click, and I'm going to define shape data, and I'm going to add on a new column. And I'm going to call it ID, and that's important. Call it ID. So now I've got an ID associated with my shape. Let's look at the IDs I have associated with my other shapes. Conference, validate, follow up. So I'm beginning to give every shape in here a unique identifier. Okay, nothing more really to do with your Visio diagram. That's kind of it. You're going to save it off, as you will normally obviously do, save it somewhere, and you're going to publish it into SharePoint. So going back to my SharePoint list that I have in there, this is that document sitting inside in a SharePoint library, and I can click on it and I can open it up and I can look at things in here. And again, no life to it, but there is this shape info. Let's look at it. And we see, and again, that ID comes through. Okay, so great. Got my Visio diagram created, got my shape ID. What if I had data behind those IDs? So I've made up a database. Yes, I've used Excel to make up my database. Okay, what if we could associate data with all of those stages? Not maybe unrealistic inside in a CRM pipeline, because they might be using Salesforce or Dynamics, and you can go in, you can log the counts and all the stages. So what if we could capture that? And what if you could put targets with that? Now that's all data stuff. I'm not going to talk about that. We just know we can capture data associated with objects once we start thinking about it. And then what if my database, I also had sales data against some common keys like divisions and months and a calendar and a division. I'm basically building up a small little data model. Okay, and this is what this data model would look like inside in Power BI. Okay, I've got my sales, I've got my CRM, I got my targets, my CRM stage, my calendar, my division. Okay, so it kind of becomes a little bit kind of interesting in that I've got a data model that contains CRM data as well as sales data, which means I could, of course, go, hey, give myself a data table, and I could click on show me something like CRM performance, and I could click on show me something like the CRM stage of that performance, and I could click on sales and other stuff in there, and that's all very interesting. I've now got a Power BI table that reports my CRM performance. but I also have a Visio diagram. Over here, you can see I've got the Visio visual enabled. If you want to go looking for it, you go right click on the three dots, get more visuals. This will pop up the app source, hopefully very quickly, because I've only got 10 minutes. There you go. Thank you very much. And if I do a search in there, we see a Visio visual. And I'll bring up the usual details about it, any limitations, etc. It is a Microsoft visual. It is Power BI certified. Get me out of here. Get me out of here. Where's my X? There it is. Thank you. So I'll bring on the visual, which I'm now going to put onto my report. So there it is. There's my visual. All blank so far. Now, I have to do this in order to plug in my visual. I have to activate the ID field. See with this visual over here, it's got an ID and it's got a value. There's two inputs it takes. Okay. So for the ID, I'm going to put in CRM stage. And look what happens. It pops up a whole, hey, give me a diagram. Okay, awesome. So let's get that diagram. Well, there's the UL sitting in my SharePoint document library. Paste that in there and go connect. And now I've got my visual inside in Power BI. Okay, getting there. But now let's expand field mapping and I can see, well, I got my ID set. How about my value? Now I've created this measure called CRM performance, which is just looking at actual to target, putting into percentages, whatever. Let's click on it. Bang! My visual lights up because I've got data now. I've got data inside of my Visio diagram. I've got objects. Objects have got an ID. That ID exists inside my data model. I've associated the ID field to CRM stage. Lights, camera, action. We can change it around a little bit by setting a value on what you want going on there. So it's kind of good in like 0 to 100% situation, obviously. Okay, you want to think about that, about how you're going to actually represent those values. I'm just completely going to accept all those defaults for now. And let's play with it a little bit more. I've now got this. I come, great. Well, now let's do something else. Let's put on something about my divisions. And let's put on something about my sales. Okay. And now let's click on this. Oh, no changes yet. I have to put on month as well. Let's put on my calendar. Let's put on a bar chart. It's going to be wonderful. And let's put on my sales. Oh, for some reason it's not picking up. I'm going to flick over to the one I made earlier. So you can see in here, I'll have to go back to that other one. It'll probably be working in a couple of seconds. But you can see in the one I made earlier, I've got the exact same report in there. I brought in sales by division and another one here by month. But when I click on it, it starts interacting with the same data set because it's just Power BI, and the Power BI Visio and the Visio visual picks up on that and starts displaying it. So reading this one straight away, I can kind of go, well, like looking at here, clearly January, pretty much everything was pretty good in my pipeline, right? It was all good. But then I move forward a little bit and I'm having a bad February. But now I'm suddenly getting a bit of insight into why that might be the case. And I can see in here my conference meetup has gone whole red. We obviously haven't got to our number of conferences, maybe because something called COVID came along and we couldn't get out to them, all right? But suddenly you're saying, well, we're not getting those leads in there anymore. And this is affecting the whole pipeline all the way through to my opportunity. And guess what? Potentially my sales. All right. So it's giving you an insight. It's giving you the ability to have an insight into your data right back to the processes that even lie before your sales figures that you see. Okay. Having done this, we can go into publish mode, obviously. All right. And we all know how to publish from Power BI up to Power BI. So let's go into my Power BI and see how that looks. Here it is. I can go in here. I get my Visio demo. I can look on the side there. And there is that Visio visual interacting with my data set up in Power BI. And, you know, once you're in there, then where do you want to go with this, right? I mean, I can go to my SharePoint maybe, and I can embed that page right inside in a SharePoint environment. And there it goes. This is a slightly earlier version of it, slightly different one that I did for a different presentation. But again, getting the same idea, because once you're in Power BI, you can bring it to Teams, you can bring it to SharePoint, you bring it wherever you want to go with. So that's really it. Visio in Power BI, hook it to your data, associate the ID tag of a Visio object, which can be any Visio object. So maybe you want to hook this into Azure and have lots of Azure official icons in there, all reporting on stuff that's going on in Azure world. All right. Maybe this is a a diagram of like a building layout with employees going on there, and you want to get some kind of metric of what's going on with employees and where they are. Maybe this is a shop floor with the diagram of where all the departments are, you know, the fresh food, the convenience, the clothing. And you want to see in there, is there anything we can understand from a point of view of our sales and the location that we put them in the store? I mean, really, it's Visio, okay? The list is kind of endless. So that's it. Short and simple. Ben, I think, or William, I'm possibly a couple of minutes early. Happy to take any questions or show you anything more about it, but that's it. That's my Visio inside in Power BI.